So, welcome back to another episode of Classic Mini Restoration with me, Mini Tom. Now, in my last filling episode, it was a bit of an update sort of thing for you because it was getting late. I mentioned that this passenger side here is done. I just need to DA it. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. The driver's side, however, is a little bit lacking in what I want. So, just down at the bottom here, I will try and pan you in. Just at the bottom here, just right underneath the rear light where the weld joint was, there's a little bit of a high spot. So I'm going to try and tap that in a little bit, and then a little skimmer filler over it. Sand that back off, and then it's time to DA the whole back end with my orbital sander, which I run from my compressor. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not wet sanding, it's because the videos that I've watched on YouTube, like the Gunman and things like that, they sort of say that yeah, wet sanding is really good, and you'll get a really glossy finish. But then you're going to introduce water into your primer, which isn't a good thing. And if you're using sort of a dust extraction sort of thing, you don't really need, with decent paper, you don't really need the actual wet and dry because the paper will just get rid of it anyway. So that's why I'm dry sanding. I intend to dry sand it throughout. I'll paint it, and then the only wet sanding that I might do will be the polishing stage, where I might go for a 1500 grit wet and dry, a 2000 grit wet and dry, maybe even a Trizac, and then a full-on polish. That's what I've done in the past when I sprayed my BMW. Did it exactly the same way. I got a decent result. More time spent would have been better, but you live and learn from them mistakes. So that's what I'm doing on this one. I'm trying to get everything as good as I can do, and then we'll paint it, and then we'll polish it. So if you bear with me a few minutes, I'll mix up some filler, and we'll get some chucked on the back of there. We'll slap some filler on that. Give it a bit of time to go off. I might just sort of take care of these welds along this bit, because you can still see it plug welds and it's kind of annoying me a little bit. So I'll probably take care of them while that's going off, and then we'll sand that back. So what I've done on this side, I've just done some really subtle taps with a hammer and a dolly just around the back of it, just some sort of hammer off dolly into it. I can just sink that high spot back into the metal. Just really light taps, just going gradually to get it back in. It's not taken much, but it has gone, and it's just like a little bit of a low spot just there. So I'm going to put some filler in that mark there, and it should be a case that you only see a mark there with filler, and then I can prime that over, then filler prime it, and then we'll sand it all back. So I'll mix some filler up now, okay? Alright, so as always, we need to just mix our filler up a little bit. You can probably see in there that it's sort of, the oil's separating from it. I don't know if it's oil or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. But basically, you don't want to separate, so you need to mix that up first, make sure it's all mixed in. And then we can put some on our onion board and get a little bit mixed up. It's not going to take much this at all, it's only very small. So about that much I'm going for. And about that much hardener. And again, long strokes. So that you don't introduce any air into the actual filler. Just going to put a bit in up here as well because it was a little bit of a low spot there. Just where that bit of a weld was. Just put it in there, you. And as always, clean it all off. Make sure that all your stuff's still nice and clean. Get it all cleaned before it sets. And then we'll get on with, like I say, grinding back some of these parts down here. I may just wait until that's gone off because if any sparks get into it, obviously it'll start rusting out. So yeah, I might just actually leave that for a little bit. What I may do, I'm going to just have a sip of my brew. Right, welcome back. So, there's been a lot happen since I last filmed anything. The back driver's side quarter is filled, stoppered, primed and filler primed. I'm waiting for that to go off and I can give it a final go over with my DA. I've gone all over this with DA, with the DA. I've used a 320 and a 400 grit to get to a good standard for paint. We have gone through in some places, but that's to be expected, sort of on edges and things like that, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But all I'm doing is I'm primering the whole lot of it, just stop any of it going rusty. I've masked up around the window, I've taken the rubber out of where the tank is and masked up the tank filler cap. I've just masked up the windows a little bit. I'm not too bothered for masking it down here because obviously we're painting that anyway. I've tack ragged all of it. I've just got to do a quick DA on the back, but once that's done, we're good for a bit of primer. So I'm just waiting for that to go off, which nearly is. It's just a little bit tacky still, so we'll just give it a few more minutes. We'll get that quickly DA'd down. It's only a little patch, and then we'll get it sprayed up with some primer. See you in a sec. I just thought while that filler primer's going off, I'll just talk about the DA itself. So this is an Aurora DA. Picked it up from Screwfix, about 35, 40 quid or something a few years back. Did the BMW okay. It's a 150mm throat, so it's quite a big throw on it. So I've got to get pads from like proper paint shops or from things like Amazon or things like that. I did pick up an interference pad, which is that there. It's basically, it velcros onto your existing one, which is quite hard backing. And the interference pad is just a bit of sponge basically, so that when you get into corners and things like that, it does actually move with it. When you're using a DA, you need to keep it flat, obviously, to the surface. You can sort of move it around a little bit when you've got a curve, but what you don't want to do is start digging in like that. You can see that digging like that to try and get rid of a nasty bit, because what you'll end up doing is you'll put a groove into it. You need to keep it flat like that. So if you've got sort of a low spot and you're trying to get in there, don't do that. Stop what you're doing, get some more filler and smooth it back off again, and you'll get a nice finish that way. As I say, I've gone up to about 400 grit for primer, and the primer should fill up any sort of little 400 grit scratches, and then we'll sand that back off with about probably 600 to 800 grit ready for top coat eventually when that sort of gets done further back in here. So what I'll do, I'll DA that and then I'll come back to you. Right, so that's all DA'd. I'm just giving it a quick tack rag to make sure there's no dust on it whatsoever. It is raining today, so I'm getting a few bits of rain down here, so it's not ideal at all. I need to try and stop that really before I paint anything. I think it's just splashing off my arm, to be honest with you. So that's a full tack rag done. The next step is to get yourself a bit of panel wide, a nice clean rag, and we'll just give it all a really good wipe over, and then we'll put some primer on. So bear with me, guys. Right, so that's it all panel wiped. As always, we'll just give that a few seconds just to flash off, and then we'll get some primer on it. So priming, I'm going to start at the bottom, work my way up, just because I ain't got a load left, but I want to get these bare metal pieces covered, and that's where they are. So we'll see how we get on with what we've got. It will be a fairly light coat. The bits where you want to pay attention to is things like edges, because you're gonna sand this back a little bit, so you want to make sure your edges have got plenty on. Right, okay, what's happening is I'm getting a few wet spots just down here. There's a few sort of bits of water just splashing onto it. I don't know where from, but I need to stop with that. To do rain. I'll just sit here. I'll stop it. So it has, you see me, I'm getting drenched. It has got a bit of water splash down here. That's unfortunate, but we'll just have to sand that back out and re-prime that bit, but that's not an issue. It's not we're doing top coat yet. And I'm going to put in this one to protect it really. But it's just building up them coats, some coats of paint, so it's starting to look like it looks alright, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks alright. Use about half a can of primer on that if anyone's wondering. So the big primer that you can get from Halfords in the bigger tins, it's 500ml, so I've used 250, just on one coat of that. Yeah, it looks alright, it's starting to look like a nice clean car now. What I'll do is I'll let it flash off and I'll do a little walk around. Right, so that concludes this episode. We are in primer. Obviously they're built in yet, but I've got some stuff to do that anyway. So we're in primer, that's all done. We're at the next sort of stage for the back end is to sort of guide coat it and just flat it off a little bit and just make sure that we're all definitely happy with it. And then it's done. We'll leave that for a little bit. We'll come back to it when I've got some paint mixed up, and we'll spray that as well as the sides and the doors hopefully. So that's that bit done. Major milestone. The back end is starting to get there. I've also, I don't know if you noticed, but I've drilled the holes for the bumper to mount because it was a little bit off centre from where the Magnum panel's made up, and I've just sort of ground all the sides back as well, so that all these lips line up with each other as well, so they're all nice and neat. So pretty happy with it. Well, I'm really happy with it actually. It's turned out really nice. So we'll see what happens with it when it dries, and we'll come back to it and we'll make sure we're happy. So if you haven't already, please like, subscribe and share. Don't forget to ring that bell. It tells you when I put a video up, so you can have a look at how well I'm doing. I think I'm doing pretty well. Some might not, but I think I am. And yeah, we'll see what happens with it. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye bye.